I've recently realized just how extremely severely negative the effect of social media as a whole has been having on my life, despite how little I use it and interact with it in general, especially in relation to how I still haven't addressed certain things on this podcast. This release will be extremely meticulously exposing the massive frauds criminally impersonating me and committing slander and libel against me directly through explicit existential assaults using public displays on social media blatantly intended to extremely badly bully me and misrepresent the reality of my life through what must undoubtedly be an extensive web of lies behind the scenes that they pretend are somehow something I want or deserve or caused myself. I want it to be known that I'm publicly officially stating and informing not just social media platform administrations, but also government officials, police, and other authoritative bodies that should be taking action to find and stop the criminals responsible for the conspiracy to murder me, that the activity I'm mentioning is, in reality, intended to be, that these predators should be in prison right now for being the reason their extremely malicious long-term conspiring to murder me is the reason I ended up suffering immensely for many years, almost dying many times, serving a 13.5-month jail sentence for making threats I never should have had to make just to retain any semblance of dignity and sanity, and to this day having to endure such an extremely severely unjustly crippled and damaging state of existence, sleeping on the streets and eating out of trash cans to the point that I don't even feel comfortable having any kind of bank accounts or even going to apply for welfare after I was betrayed into losing every bit of potential to gain finances with any sense of mental clarity or sense of personal identity so extremely brutally stripped of me as I face constant hitmen after me, literally as I realized my own biological relatives were all involved in this as well. The pathetic, extremely undeserved, and obviously unwanted conspiracies to murder me continue. Another night I wake up to see another hitman sent after me that I had to avoid just the other night after my last release. And another, this time even more blatant, death spell type energy message from the same unhinged psychopath stalker harassing me on Instagram. This person very clearly knows exactly what they're doing too now. Their bio thing blatantly has this ASCII art thing of like someone as if to be waving a wand and sending out magic, and the message she sent this time reads, "Hi, smiley face. My friend was stalking your profile all day. IDK where she got it, but she def likes you. I noticed this woman has blonde hair now, which either just looked orange before or she recently dyed it. Either way, there are clearly extremely false narratives that I have some kind of particular liking for blonde hair. Completely false. I've already stated multiple times before, and even on this podcast, that it just so happens Kimmy had dyed her hair blonde when I met her, but I've never had any particular liking of blonde hair, and I had absolutely nothing to do with Kimmy's choice to dye her hair blonde. I actually prefer Kimmy's natural hair color. I don't hate people with blonde hair, it's just not something I particularly like either. Since now the amount of stalkers I have that clearly are trying to sabotage everything I'm doing by operating under and trying to endlessly purport extremely false narratives are being further exposed by my efforts on this podcast, revealing the reality of the massive scum extremely badly abusing me through this extremely devious, massive toxicity they're likely trying to masquerade as something that is at all wanted or deserved by me, I felt it important to check the profile of the stalker this stalker mentioned to me. Both of these loser nobodies have their Instagram profiles set as private. Both of them have appearances and names and profiles that are, at least to me, completely random and irrelevant to my life and do not offer me anything at all appealing or any reason I'd ever want or need to interact with them. They are purely taking value from my life and trying to waste my time and energy and make it seem like I'm disingenuously obsessed with them or lying about something I'm saying on this podcast when that couldn't be further from the truth. Both of these losers are literally extremely creepy stalkers to me, and clearly some massive fraud operating under extremely false narratives about me is sending them towards me. They both have extremely similar bios where they have that ASCII art deviously indicating they're attempting death spell type attacks on my existence through what they're doing, where the woman messaging me has now changed it to indicate she's either studying psychology at UCLA, she goes to UCLA and considers herself a spiritual psychic to some extent, or both. At this point, I suppose I should make sure I've made it extremely clear that I have absolutely no affiliation with or interest in UCLA or any of its current students. I also do not have and have never had any particular interest in anyone studying psychology or that might consider themselves a psychic to any extent. This weird ASCII art thing trying to extremely deviously, abusively torment me, though, it's not the first time I've seen something like this. I seem to vaguely recall seeing something that was either exactly this or something very similar to this. I remember seeing it on Celine's Twitter bio area long ago. She has some kind of ASCII art there currently too, but it wasn't the same. It was more like what these stalkers have. Celine's definitely heavily involved in this, but I don't think it's just a coincidence that this other stalker woman is also Caucasian, which brings me back to feeling some strange suspicion of Peter being involved as well. Now, Celine might be attacking me out of general jealousy and maybe regret that she had a chance to come forwards towards me and chose to make a complete mockery of me instead, but I'd say I feel much more inclined to believe the much stronger feeling here is that Celine and Peter secretly have really strong romantic and likely also sexual feelings towards each other, and Kimmy's getting in the way somehow, which, since I'm disturbing whatever dynamic Kimmy's involved in with romance or intimacy in her life in general, means I'm facing attacks as a result of that whole mess too. I know that I've never heard of either of these random women before who are now blatantly stalking me, and I have absolutely zero desire or willingness to engage in communicating with them, much less getting at all romantically and or sexually involved with them. I know there must be extremely false narratives about me being purported that somehow people think they can existentially assault me, specifically through random losers that blatantly flaunt stalking and harassing me through Instagram. If I try to think about it, I'd have to imagine there's some specific reason that they're stalking me on Instagram, among all the other things they could be doing to harass me. Instagram is owned by Meta, which is the same company that owns Facebook. That worthless, unhinged, narcissist, psychopath, massive liar scum from my high school named Chloe started her massive smear campaign and stalking and defamation of me through Facebook. Based on how this whole situation has been unfolding from what I can see, and also from what I'm seeing in my energy through extremely strange things that often suddenly tend to pop up to my view shortly after I make releases on this podcast, At this point, I'm extremely convinced that Chloe's been criminally impersonating me over the internet to be toxic to others, and then lying that I've been harassing her and stalking her and threatening her and her friends, and likely also other people from my past ever since high school ended. Maybe it even started while I was still in high school. It's either just her specifically that's involved in this extreme criminal activity against me, or her and others from my past she's worked closely with to fully consciously and intentionally conspire against me with for selfish gain entirely against my consent, wishes, and best interests. The major suspects, as far as I'd consider, are ex-friends I had in high school named Jerry, Herman, and Matthew, along with my biological brother, Kristen. Do not give any of these people attention or help them at all. They are all massive enemies to me as far as I'll ever be concerned, and I've long kicked them all out of my life completely and absolutely unconditionally will never allow any of them back into my life at all ever again. Just based on the past experiences they would have had with me in their lives, these extremely predatory, unhinged psychopath frauds knew exactly the community I'd be most inclined to want to get close to and grow in and make long-term, likely lifelong friends and business associates and potential romantic prospects in. They knew exactly who I'd be likely to find attractive. They knew exactly how they'd try to slander me, to try to extremely deviously pressure and force me into ending up somehow trapped into situations where I'd feel like I'm losing my mind, and literally no matter what I do, nobody will ever believe the truth or care that I'm clearly being extremely badly lied about and mistreated by people committing extremely serious, literally criminal acts against me on a daily or near daily basis, fully consciously and intentionally, entirely at my expense, against my consent, wishes, and best interests, for their own selfish gain. But this got me thinking. I decided to check private messages I've gotten on other platforms over time. The only one I really had anything to check on was Twitter. I noticed there's a message requests area, so I went there. I found a particularly strange account tried messaging me on November 3rd, 2022. Not a date I consider to hold of any particular significance otherwise, but this account got more strange and infuriating to me the more I looked into it. I've now reported the account through the block or report option on Twitter, but I don't imagine much will come of that. So instead, I'll meticulously now break down all the kind of major false narratives I see being purported through the account at Shattered Pasta on Twitter. I want it to be extremely clear that this account is not me, was never me, and will never be me, nor is it at all anything I endorse. It's not something that is or ever has been or ever will be operating with my consent, wishes, or best interests at all. Many things they say I recognize as blatant copy and pastes of things I've said in past emails to my mailing list, which when I said them were directed at Kimmy and in ways that were completely preserving my integrity and authenticity and dignity, but that completely trash on my life when presented in the extremely damaging and misdirected way they are on this criminal impersonation Twitter account. Whoever created this account is clearly a massive stalker and fraud and has been doing major defamation of me for many years, for sure. Let's get into it. First of all, let's look at the basic account information publicly visible. Bronson the loser. Okay, so right off the bat, insulting me and trying to make it look like I enjoy being humiliated or considering myself or having others consider me a loser for some reason. Completely false. I would never name myself that way or consent to being represented that way by someone else. The basic description, as you can see, is further extremely humiliating and insulting and completely false. I am not a cuck and would not love being a cuck for anyone, for any reason, at any point in time. I don't know who this person considers my girl, but again, I've never even actually had a girlfriend before in my entire life. I do not get turned on or find any benefit or appeal at all in anyone else ever having any kind of romantic and or sexual involvement with an intimate partner if I ever had one. And I most certainly have never had any compulsion or inclination to implant crystals into my penis to turn into a god. I do not have never had, and will never have any want or need to implant crystals anywhere in my body, and I certainly do not have and have never had any delusion that implanting crystals into my genitals would make me powerful somehow. I'd imagine quite the opposite, actually. It'd just make me extremely miserable and remove from the pleasure I'd get from stimulation of my genitals. I'd never consent to it, and it certainly hasn't already happened, nor do I see any reason I'd ever have to be particularly concerned it'd ever happen in the future, and I'm certainly not upset about that. Moving on, the amount of people this account is following. Holy crap, it's 27 people. But that's what I was seeing in my energy, was a school of people attacking me. Yeah, that's not a coincidence. So let's go through this list of 27 criminals conspiring to murder me through a massive smear campaign of stalking and defamation of me over the internet, which is just one among multiple groups overall of people trying to rob my energy and destroy my life. Here are screenshots of everyone this account was following. With that out of the way, I'm now going to attack every single possible false narrative I see purported by it through every post or reply it's ever made while showing screenshots of each. So, the first post it made back on May 29, 2020. For some reason, responding to some random person I've never heard of or spoken to before or have any reason to interact with, who was adding Donald Trump. The person was being blatantly racist against black people, or darker-skinned people, melanated people, however you find most respectable to reference people of that skin color. So, I want it to be extremely clear that I do not support this statement, and I've never been racist against this ethnic group. I've never been racist against anyone, but specifically racism against this group appears to be something that's been especially falsely purported about me. The next one, May 31st, 2020, now ridiculously retracting the racism against one ethnic group to display racism against Asians, once again speaking to someone I've never heard of or spoken to before or have any reason to interact with. Again, I want it to be extremely clear that I do not support this statement, and I've never been racist against Asians. There are people of all races that are racist, and I don't particularly dislike one group's racism more than another group's racism. Racism is all bad, and anyone that participates in it should not be looked favorably upon for doing so at all. Like I've said before, my sexual tastes are not racism. They are simply a completely sincere personal preference that there's absolutely nothing wrong with objectively. And in case it wasn't clear enough already, there is absolutely no political motivation or underlying politics-based driving factor that makes me feel how I do. The next one, June 13, 2020. Saying all kinds of success is worthless to me without Kimmy? Perhaps, but not because of some kind of indebtedness to Kimmy or anyone else. I'd only agree with that sentiment because my feelings for Kimmy have always been completely sincere, as I've been proving with this podcast. But I get this feeling this post was being done with some strange undertones that I feel that way insincerely, as if to be indebted to Kimmy somehow. I want it to be extremely clear that this is completely false. I do not owe Kimmy anything. My position is simply, sincerely how I feel about life. Kimmy is actually the most physically attractive being I could ever fathom existing, and I actually cannot fathom a greater pleasure than rubbing up against her latex-clad butt for hours every day forever. I don't owe anyone anything to say that. It's genuinely how I feel. The next one, June 13, 2020. Replying to Celine, saying this really weird romantic sounding stuff as if I'm in love with Celine and think she's amazing or something. Completely false. I have never been in love with Celine. I've hardly paid any attention to her at all, and actually, the very limited time I spoke to her in her Twitch chat many years ago, I just thought she came off extremely cold and strangely bitter and honestly kind of unpleasant in demeanor, especially for a streamer. I certainly wouldn't say she shook my world or seemed sweet and lighthearted. She also doesn't seem particularly sharp to me, although she certainly seems filled with anxiety and extremely sadistic. Not hot or interesting. The next one, June 13, 2020, replying to Hyun, blatantly saying she's the love of my life and the person I consider my soulmate? What? Hell no! I've never seen Hyun this way, and I still do not, and I never will. Again, I'm not trying to say she's ugly. I wouldn't deny she's among the most physically attractive beings I could ever fathom existing, far more arousing than many, if not all, A-list celebrities I've ever even heard of. But that's also true of Kimmy, and in fact much more so in the case of Kimmy. I'm certainly not feeling any shame when I say that. There's absolutely nothing about Hyun that makes her come off as love of my life or soulmate vibes to me. She actually seems very similarly filled with anxiety and extremely sadistic like Celine, but more extremely deviously concealed. Not hot or interesting. If anything, Celine and Hyun seem to me like they're more compatible with each other than they are with me. The next one, June 13, 2020, replying to Kimmy, specifically a set of pictures of Hobbs that she posted. Really strange to comment about the fact that people would be shocked what I've been through in life in response to that. Hobbs has no particular meaning to me and certainly isn't at all responsible for me still being alive and functioning at the kind of level that I do to this day. Again, I don't hate Hobbs or any of Kimmy's other pets she's ever had, but they're not some magical influence to my life personally. The next one, June 14, 2020, replying to M. Longfellow Deeds, someone I don't know personally, have never spoken to privately, and only distantly recall being a part of Kimmy's community. I don't have and have never had any interest in or association with the person he was responding to, someone apparently named Sally who goes online as You Jelly. I've now added this person to my mailing list just because of this extremely strange thing I've seen. Neither this Sally person nor M. Longfellow Deeds are people I ever have or ever will at all attribute to being someone pushing me to be the best version of myself. The next one, June 14, 2020. Replying to that person named Sally. Again, this is someone I've never spoken to before in my life and have never had any romantic and or sexual interest in. And this person is talking to her, about loving her? I want it to be extremely clear that this Sally woman has never spoken to me, and I have never felt compelled to research about love as a result of her, and she certainly isn't at all the reason for me learning anything about love that really stands out to me. The next one, June 14, 2020, replying to someone named Kyle, someone I've never spoken to privately, but I recall being in Kimmy's community long ago. I have no idea what this person is talking about in regards to Kyle playing with me, or what feelings and position wouldn't change as a result of anything Kyle's done. The next one, June 14, 2020, replying to Kimmy, replying to Kyle, where Kimmy's posting pictures of Hobbs' parents, it seems. Extremely strangely commenting about not being a player and happy to stay that way, and about having experiences with women beforehand, saying they were the most popular person in high school. This is so strange. I don't understand why this person would feel compelled to say this at all. The next one, June 14, 2020, replying to someone that goes by Shuyin, who I don't know personally and have never spoken to before. This person was replying to a post by Carrie, which is a woman that I've only spoken to once in my life when I met her at that Toronto meetup with Kimmy and Jamie. I did not know her beforehand and have never spoken to her online or offline ever since that meetup. I am not, never have been, and never will be pursuing or interested in any kind of romantic and or sexual relationship with either Carrie or this Shuyin person. Both Carrie and this Shuyin person's posts there have absolutely nothing to do with me and do not appease me or force me to change my position or give anyone leverage over me. I most certainly would not say I want or need either of them in my life at all for anything one could consider success to be meaningful to me. And why anyone would believe I'm giving them such power over me ever is completely unknown to me. Whatever false narratives people believe about this, I want it to be extremely clear that it's completely false. The next one, June 14, 2020, replying to Kimmy posting pictures of Hobbs saying, "This is now a dog account." I don't know why this person felt compelled to comment about being kind and cruel to each other at times. I am not Hobbs, nor do I or have I ever consented at all to being represented at all as Hobbs or any of Kimmy's other pets. I am not Kimmy's pet. I never have been, and I never will be. The next one, June 14, 2020, replying to Yvonne, thanking people for her hitting 200,000 followers on Twitch. Extremely strange comment about this criminal impersonator loving themselves, saying they love themselves too much not to be with Yvonne. What the hell is this? I want it to be extremely clear that I am not, never have been, and never will be at all romantically and or sexually involved with Yvonne. I also have absolutely nothing to do with her hitting 200,000 followers on Twitch. The next one, June 14, 2020. Reply someone that goes by ODTS Dog, someone I've never spoken to privately before, but I recognize them from being around Twitch in Kimmy's community long ago. I have no idea about that person being catfished online for a year. They have never mentioned this to me before. I have no idea of this person making a YouTube video about it, and if they have, I never knew, and to this day, I've never seen it, nor do I feel I want or need to. The next one, June 14, 2020, replying to M. Longfellow Deeds, replying to someone called Louis, talking about their birthday. I've never spoken privately to either of these people, and I never even heard of the Louis person. I have never been at all romantically and or sexually interested in or involved with either of these people, and I certainly have never had any want or need to discuss meditating in isolation because of either of them in the past. The next one, June 15, 2020, saying to the ODTS dog person that whoever was criminally impersonating me here is not saying and doing all of this to make him feel bad. Like, I just don't know what the hell went on here. I've never spoken to this person privately. I don't know what this was talking about at all. The next one, June 15, 2020, replying to someone that goes by shifted reality. I've never spoken to this person before in my life, certainly have never been at all romantically and or sexually involved with that person. They cannot call me back. They have never made any romantic and or sexual moves onto me either. Literally just yet another person I've never spoken to or met in my life that this person criminally impersonating me is so strangely romantically and or sexually somehow involved with. The next one, June 15, 2020, saying to the ODTS dog person that they will stay loyal to them? What the hell? Again, I've never spoken to this person privately before. I've certainly never dated them or been at all romantically and or sexually involved with them. I have no loyalty to this person. None whatsoever. I never have and I never will. The next one, June 18, 2020, saying to Kimmy that even if she was playing with the person, it doesn't change how they feel and their position. So strange. I have no idea what happened here that this post was in reference to. Clearly something extremely shady happening behind my back, entirely against my consent, wishes, and best interests, where Kimmy's been extremely shadily involved with someone else romantically and or sexually, who was criminally impersonating me for many years to try to get away with being the massive fraud they are. The next one, June 18, 2020, replying to Kimmy leaving on brown hair dyed too long, making her hair dyed black. This was something completely random to me when it happened and never would have compelled me to comment specifically on it. As far as any communication I myself have actually done, I did not comment on it before because it actually wasn't anything special to me. Now, it seems it was based on some kind of false narratives that it's something that appeases me or forces me to shut up or offers someone leverage over me if someone dyes their hair brown. Again, this is completely false. Whoever this criminal impersonating me was, they were talking about being harsher with Kimmy or something. Clearly, the person's feelings aren't genuine if they had to criminally impersonate me just to try to convince Kimmy of the supposed sincerity. The next one, June 18, 2020, replying to someone that goes by Norbertas, someone who I've never spoken to privately before, but who I recall long ago was once a part of Kimmy's community. I have no idea what happened that this criminal impersonator talked about this dude calling them back in the future. I've never been at all romantically and or sexually involved with this person, and they cannot call me back to them. I've, however, now added this person to my mailing list because of this. The next one, June 18, 2020, replying to someone named Joshua Waldo, someone who I've never spoken to in my life and didn't even know exists. I have never seen the original post. he was replying to here, which has already been deleted by the time I'm seeing this. This criminal impersonator is calling this Joshua person retarded for reasons completely unknown to me. The next one, June 18, 2020. Again to this ODTS dog person. I have no idea why this person felt compelled to talk about the person's supposed childishness and quirkiness. I do not find that person adorable. I've never spoken privately to that person in my entire life. I have no idea of their personality or how it might be childish or quirky, nor do I have any need or interest in finding out. The next one, June 18, 2020, replying to someone that goes by Forever Fire SNSD, someone who I've never met or spoken privately to, but I remember being present long ago in Kimmy's community. Whoever this criminal impersonator is, they're claiming they met this person and they told each other they'd never forget each other. I most certainly have never told that person I'd never forget them. I most certainly have never met them. The only person I've ever told in my entire life that I'd never forget them is Kimmy at that Toronto meetup many years ago. I also have no idea why this was specifically in response to a comment this dude made about attack damage carry champions in League of Legends feeling bad to play in 2020. The next one, June 18, 2020, replying to the same Kyle that I mentioned earlier, replying to a post Kimmy made with Hobbs, strangely saying that Kyle needed motivational videos to get out of bed in the morning and had a mental breakdown on stream within less than 2 months after this criminal impersonator of me left him alone for a longer period of time. I have no idea about this happening. Again, I remember someone called the Cavman from many years ago in Kimmy's community, but I've never spoken to him privately. The next one, June 18, 2020. There's some weird thread of messages talking to itself, talking about this criminal impersonator telling themselves in public that they're the most precious and amazing person they've ever known, and saying that 2 months without being directly contacted by them will result in them feeling extremely devastated and depressed and make them quit their job and retreat from society to meditate in isolation no matter what anyone else says or does. So strange. The next one, June 18, 2020, more posting to themselves saying they're the first being to graduate from the University of Life and saying this Twitter account criminally impersonating me is their thesis. Wow, what an unbelievably pathetic, extremely mentally ill, massive loser and fraud. Perhaps this unhinged, extremely mentally ill narcissist psychopath is the lunatic stalking me in my podcast's YouTube comments like a massive coward on some alias account, constantly trying to harass me and call me a loser and acting tough. What a prick. At this point, I suspect it's Edison, but who knows? Could be Peter or someone else involved in Kimmy's personal life too, I guess. The next one, June 18, 2020, replying to someone called Grave, someone I've never spoken to in my life and didn't even know exists until now. This criminal impersonator is telling the person they suck as a streamer, and some big host they apparently got years ago doesn't matter anymore, and that they're irrelevant and should leave Twitch and they're a loser. Huh. No idea what happened there. Didn't know about any of this stuff until just now. I've, however, added this person to my mailing list now because of this. The next one, June 18, 2020, more messages to ODTS Dog, strangely talking about prison and waiting even several months for contact from this person and seemingly pursuing a romantic and or sexual relationship with them. No idea what happened here. The next one, June 18, 2020, replying to Forever Fire SNSD in what appears to be some kind of strange romantic gesture or something, talking about songs from an artist named NF that I've linked in the past in emails to my mailing list. I have no idea why this happened. I've never cared if I scare this dude away. I've never spoken to him privately in my life. I've never been at all romantically and or sexually involved with him in my life. I have absolutely no interest in him and no willingness to tolerate ever being romantically and or sexually involved with him. The next one, June 18, 2020, talking to themselves that someone wants them to let everything on their mind out. It seems this account was supposed to indicate something to someone and be some kind of massive leverage or something, but I was never even attempted to be made aware of this account's existence until literally more than 2 years after all these posts happened. And this criminal impersonated me and made it seem like I was involved in this or endorsed it or encouraged it. None of the dates of any of the posts on this account have any particular significance to me personally. This whole account is absolutely insane in the worst possible way and is literally extremely criminal and should be investigated and taken down promptly. The next one, June 23, 2020, replying to a post Kimmy made saying, "I love peace within the chaos." This criminal impersonator said something very similar to what they said to Celine really early on, this time adding on that they felt genuinely happy after joining Kimmy's community. I have no idea what this is about. I noticed the pictures have Kimmy where she dyed her hair some strange color. She never really commented much on it, and I certainly didn't ask for it or benefit from it at all, so I've never commented on it really before or paid much attention to it. But it looks like a dark pink or purple color, probably extremely deviously, viciously abusing false narratives all the way back down to false narratives that Lily has been abusing from completely worthless scum from my past, stalking me since high school. I can only guess. The next one, September 16, 2020, saying to someone named Mickey, "Nice job, bestie." This guy I've spoken to before in my life privately. At one point, I thought he was a friend, but he was really just helping Kimmy and her associates conspire to murder me. I tried to tell him people were slandering me and conspiring against me. He'd listen to what I said, but he didn't really help me. He's been extremely distant for many years now, and I don't see any way that communicating with him would help me. I certainly don't consider him my best friend, and I'm definitely not and never have been and never will be and never wanted or will want to be at all romantically and or sexually involved with him. I haven't spoken to him in years. I have no idea what this criminal impersonator was responding to here because that post has been deleted as of the time of me seeing this. The next one, May 20, 2021, replying to Kimmy talking about unban requests, extremely strangely just saying they're not a player, and again, they were the most popular person in high school. So strange. I want it to be known that I never pursued getting unbanned from any of Kimmy's stuff at this time that she gave unban requests. I knew something extremely shady was going on, and I knew that if she's not going to treat me properly, I'm absolutely unconditionally dead set on becoming the worst of enemies against her and all of her associates, so I really don't care if she unbans me or not. Whatever massive loser and fraud has been criminally impersonating me clearly doesn't have anywhere close to that level of power or authenticity, though. The next one, May 20, 2021, replying to Kimmy mentioning her supposedly first MapleStory character name in reply to a tweet from the official MapleStory Twitter account asking what it was for people. Extremely strangely calling Kimmy by her legal name, Elena Kim, and saying there happy they showed Kimmy the initial versions of that message? Well, clearly it's someone close to Kimmy, because I certainly didn't make this post and didn't know it was going to happen or why it happened. The sparkle emoji Kimmy used, combined with everything I've went through in my life up to this point, suggests Jamie's extremely heavily involved in whatever it is, though. The next one, November 20, 2021. Replying to someone that goes by Boney, saying their girlfriend has been choked and calling them a thug. I've never spoken to this person in my life and didn't even know they exist until now. I certainly don't know of that person's girlfriend, if they have one, or if they've ever choked her. I also want to make it extremely clear that I've never choked anyone, male or female, and I have no desire to. If I want to harm someone, I want to literally end their life in real life, for real, beyond any capacity of resuscitation, not choke them as if it's some kind of kinky sexual fetish. Ew. Maybe this is Peter, since I think he's into this, or maybe Edison's into it and I don't know. The next one, November 3rd, 2022. Saying to ODTS Doc to watch themselves around the love of my life, and that World of Warcraft is already on the verge of getting cancelled by them. And Kimmy's using them. No idea what was happening here. I don't think I've ever been responsible for World of Warcraft almost getting cancelled. What the hell is this? The next one, November 3rd, 2022. Apparently this person added me. I never got a notification. Twitter has shadow banned me for who knows how long, and is really weird with the notifications I get. Delaying showing me them, not showing me some, showing me weird ones. Been this way for a long time. Whoever the hell this is, I do want smoke with you. You massive fraud and loser. Stop hiding behind alias accounts and being a massive coward trying to tell me stupid things as if you're this huge tough guy and a permanent chief of the Shadow Confederation. You're trying to power play with Kimmy's life through criminal impersonation of me, and you think you rule the world harder than me? You are a moron. And there you have it. Why social media is garbage. I could have even said this stuff long ago, but who would believe me? Even now, I'm probably going to have to do even more to keep fighting these massive frauds, breaking down Kimmy's streams and exposing her, breaking down and exposing Lillian Emane's podcast releases, breaking down and exposing Jamie's Sunday fraud streams. Ugh. I will destroy this criminal impersonator's life, and definitely clearly Jamie and Lily and Emane's, and likely several others I'm yet to really learn how stupid they all are. Well, if you really want to deny me of the connection I want and deserve with Kimmy so badly, you will all get what you asked for. Worthless, scummiest scum of the world. I genuinely despise all of you coward, fraud, worthless pricks with the depths of my soul. I just wanted one thing. One goddamn thing. But no. You had to goddamn go and put me through a nightmare and do anything you could to deny me of ever being happy. You will all suffer a suffering you clearly can't imagine possible. I will never move on. I will never date anyone else. And I will do whatever it takes to make sure the world knows I never wanted things to turn out so dark and to be denied of Kimmy. You will all learn the hardest possible way who is really the ruler of the world. Not this pathetic fraud criminally impersonating me and thinking they run everything. What a goddamn loser.